Healing. I'm running back to YAHUAH, through YAHUAH, I'm alive. Blood on me like armor, got his name on my mind. Used to die for the streets, now I live for his sign. I left the beast in the system, now I'm free this time.
Shalom, shalom family. This is Yasharala coming back again with another lesson. So before we jump in what I have lined up for you guys today, I just want to give all glory and praise to the Most High YAHUAH and to His Son YAHUAH. So today I have a very important topic that I feel we need to discuss, and that's going to be on the unity on so-called colored and black people in South Africa. And how the system is trying to deliberately divide our people, and we're going to look into why it is essential for our people to divide, and that how these monikers that they've given our people, like for example black, colored, these are just colonial terms, but when we look at the core of it, we are essentially the same people. And these people, our enemies, these so-called Edomites, these Europeans, if we're not very aware of it, they're trying to make us to forget apartheid. And if we're not aware, then pretty soon we will be facing the same struggles that our ancestors faced, and it will be like our ancestors basically died for nothing, and all their sacrifices that, that they've given up for us during apartheid would have accumulated to nothing. So we're going to look at a couple of stats and a couple of figures at how so-called black and colored people are still living at the bottom end of society, and look a little bit at the structural racism, the remnants of structural racism in South Africa. So we're going to first open up with a scripture reading. So the first scripture we're going to take a look at is Ecclesiasticus 25:1. In three things I was beautified and stood up beautified both before Yah and men: the unity of brethren, the love of neighbors, and a man and a wife that agree together. So these people are enemies. They know that, our unity is pleasing to the Most High. So they're trying to make us abominable in the eyes of the Most High. Essentially, this is a survey that I conducted through, ChatGTP, just to do a basic research and give me some figures on what are the effects and the remnants of structural and systemic racism in South Africa. And these are some of the figures that it showed me, and it's quite shocking. According to the latest stats, it shows that 37% of so-called black people and 23% of so-called colored people in South Africa are still unemployed. And here's also a crazy statistic. It says between 13 and 14% of black households are still living in informal settlements, and colored South Africans have the highest portion of traditional or informal housing, which is crazy, still 32 years after democracy. And these people are trying to tell us to forget about apartheid, and like these things are things of the past. But I'm going to show you guys just some evidence of this, the racial abuse that our people still have to go through on a daily, and the fact that racism is still very much alive in South Africa. So we're just going to take a look at this, and how our people are still being persecuted. This small boy was allegedly, he took apples or some oranges from this farmer, 6-year-old boy, and he got ran over by a car. Absolutely unjust and wicked. Just take a look.
Defense and the state submitted arguments for and against Stoneman's release on bail. The defense submitted that the accused suffered from cancer and was terminally ill, warranting his release on bail, while the state argued that Stoneman was a flight risk. They said he could potentially also influence those involved in the matter if he was released. But the court found that the defense's case for bail was weak, and bail was subsequently denied. Kwesi's mother says she is still traumatized following the incident.
I'm still very shocked. I don't know how to explain. My heart is broken, but I feel a bit happier now that bail was denied.
Kwesi's mother says he is on the road to recovery.
His condition is getting better, and I trust in God. I believe my child will recover, and I believe he will walk on his two legs again.
Community members say there has been an increase in brutal attacks on the poor in recent months.
In
our time, when I was young, if you stole due to hunger or when you were just being childish, you would have gotten a beating. These days, we are seeing a trend in Matsikama where our young people are being killed and assaulted. So we are very happy with the outcome of today.
Kinders kry diep seer. So ons is tevrede, ons is baie gelukkig rakende die uitkoms van vandag.
The case has been postponed to the 4th of November for further investigation, and the matter will then be heard in the Lutzville Magistrates Court. Corbin August.
More details about the roles Reynard Steyn, Dumisani Masilela, Stephen Wilson, and Dumisani Lutuli allegedly played in the killings will now be known only next week. Their formal bail application was postponed again. An interpreter for accused 3, Malawi and Stephen Wilson, had to leave court abruptly due to a family emergency.
The matter was postponed until the 25th of September for a formal bail application. The state was ready to proceed. However, we couldn't proceed without the services of the Malawian interpreter.
Wanda Mahlangu and Tembeni Mguni were set alight on a farm believed to be Steyn's, allegedly because they stole livestock. For the two victims' community, the alleged farm attack has been put down to racial tensions between farmers and neighboring communities. For some of them, a sign that not enough has changed in post-apartheid South Africa, especially in towns like Middelburg.
That's why ba khona go tšea ngwana wa batho bana ba batho ba bele ba babedi ba ba tšuba ese ka re ba tšuba di tšhwene ba sa tšuba.
It's a sentiment echoed by Linford Mafokwane and Hamilton Tweni. Their own assault and malicious damage to property case against 2 white men was in court at the same time.
We were racially attacked, assaulted, and our property was damaged. And the matter is been postponed for judgment to the 27th of September.
Can you give us a bit more detail in terms of why you're saying that was a racially motivated attack? What happened?
We were called the K word, and then after that we were assaulted. So it was a racial attack because the K word came out, and that's what triggered the attack.
I stay in a wide suburb area. I really feel unwelcomed and unsafe because of they look at you as a criminal whenever you're walking around. So people around here, they're not really welcoming us. It's surprisingly because I started staying there since 1995, but till today, we still feel like we're not welcome.
The bail application by the 4 accused of the farm murders is expected to be heard on Wednesday next week. Shlonim Timkulu, Middelburg.
Okay. Ja of nee? Ja of nee?
Why?
Ek vra vir jou oor al die kak wat jy nou maak, met polisie en hospitaal en jou rug en jou mental health en kak. Want daar regte mense, regte werksmense, stede nie as sulke goed nie. Ons is manne hier, so ons werk. Ons praat kak uit en ons werk. So, wil jy nog by ons werk of moet ek iemand anders soek so lank?
Sorry, can you maybe speak properly to me?
Hallo Gershwin, wil jy nog by werk of nie?
You don't need to be sarcastic.
Hallo Gershwin, jy so nou, wil jy by ons werk of nie? Luister, jy sê nie vir my hoe ek moet wees nie. Ek is hier vir op 'n basis, so. Ek wil weet wat aangaan. Wat is jou intensies? Wat wil jy doen?
I was assaulted at work.
Okay, yes, no, you weren't assaulted, you were touched on your shoulder. Okay? You will not get a verdict that says you are assaulted. Okay? You can bank that. So my question is, do you still want to work?
But you weren't there to witness.
Wie fluister aan jou in jou agtergrond? Ek praat nie daarvan nie. Ek vra vir jou. Wat wil jy doen? Wat is jou end game? What's your end game here? Do you want to work with it first or not?
But why aren't you guys seeing the seriousness of me being assaulted at work?
You weren't assaulted. Okay? You weren't assaulted.
That is a form of assault.
Wil jy nog by ons werk of nie?
But that is a form of assault.
So as ek nou op jou skree, is dit ook 'n form of assault?
No, but he physically touched me. He grabbed me. He pushed me out of the canteen.
Wat is fout met jou? Jy kom uit die Cape Flats uit. Het niemand nog nooit 'n gun op jou gerig of niks nie? Is jy nog nooit assaulted in die Cape Flats nie?
That got nothing to do with this. That
Jy
is
probeer die storie melk,
discrimination now
né?
that you're doing, and that is racist.
Dankie. Sê gou weer?
That is racist that you're telling me I'm from the Cape Flats, and if nobody ever pulled a gun on me, how can you say something
Why
like
is
that
it
to me?
racist? I never said it.
Because I'm brown.
I never said it. Luister hierso meneertjie. Jy's besig met groot kak hierso. Okay.
Okay.
Is jy by die werk of nie?
I'm not at work because I come from hospital.
Do you have a doctor's letter?
I have a doctor's note, everything.
Okay, but we will issue you with a warning for absconding until you give us that letter, and you will also get other warnings. Ek dink jy moet maar vir jou ander volk in werk gaan soek, hoor.
Okay.
Okay, en hoor hierso, enigiets wat ek nou vir jou gesê het, gaan ek net deny dat ek dit gesê het. Okay. So jy moet nie dit ook in jou fucking case kom inbring nie.
Okay.
Okay.
Wat is fout met jou? Wat is fout met jou? Jy kom uit die Cape Flats uit. Het niemand nog nooit 'n gun op jou gerig of niks nie? Is jy nog nooit assaulted in die Cape Flats nie? Okay, en hoor hierso, enigiets wat ek nou vir jou gesê het, gaan ek net deny dat ek dit gesê het. Okay.
That. Hence, I refer to myself as black by race and colored by culture, because the complication in colored communities and in colored families, especially when it comes to our phenotypes and how it is that some of us are lighter skinned and darker skinned, have coilier hair, etc., but also know that we have a black lineage or heritage within our bloodline. The safest option for me and the best option for me in a country like South Africa is to go with I am black by race and colored by culture. Because really, some of us are really genuinely just trying to figure out how to be black. Really, the rest is very complicated and wow. Yeah, no.
That's what I wanted to share with you, family. So it is utterly essential for us to unite as a people, so-called colored, so-called black people, because at the end of the day, our same enemies are plotting against us, and they don't really care whether you're light-skinned, whether you're dark-skinned. They just see, a Negro and somebody that they can oppress and turn into a slave. So, this is quite alarming. A lot of our people think that, racism in South Africa is something of the past, but it is still very much alive, and institutional and systemic racism, it is making a comeback as we speak. This is part of the reason why we need to unite as a people. It says here that there's 48, this is looking at the statistics of comparing the healthcare of black households compared to white households, and the amount of money spent on private healthcare, and white people annually spent around 48 billion rand on private healthcare, whereas black South Africans spend 40 billion rand, whereas white South Africans have over 8 billion rand to spend more on healthcare, whereas they're literally 8% of the population, and we're about 92% of the population. So there's also another example of how systemic racism continues and its effects on how it has deprived our people from adequate healthcare. So while we're busy out here fighting each other, and as Kendrick Lamar, I hate seeing two niggas arguing about who's blacker. While we're out here arguing about who's blacker, these people are plotting on how to split our country, and this is the bigger agenda that we need to face and focus on, because while the South African media is working on trying to discredit us and trying to isolate South Africa from the rest of our African brothers and sisters and the rest of our African community, behind the scenes, this is what they're working on. This guy, this chump who's not even South African, who is a British national that immigrated here, is now advocating and wrote a letter to Donald Trump this week advocating for a referendum that the Western Cape should become its own independent state. Now, what that basically means is that, so-called black and so-called colored people are going to go back into slavery because they want to put us back into the plantations, man, essentially. And this is not even a theory. We see this in practice, by the DA, how they're implementing their policies in regards to the poor. And I'll show an example right now. But here, even in this letter, this man is using the struggle of the colored people, to validate himself and to say that, he's a country of seeking the Afrikaner interests and all of that, when he himself is not even an Afrikaner, and he doesn't even have anything to do with the Afrikaner culture. And even during the British and Anglo-Boer wars, he would have been considered an enemy of the Afrikaner. So, it's really hypocritical and sensational, and these people are just vultures, as usually, trying to milk a good story. But this is also an example of how our people are still being exploited by, the DA, whatever. So these are our real enemies while we're out here fighting about who's blacker. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And it still seems like the same people who were behind the corporations that were benefiting from the oppression of black people still seem to be the major forces of capitalism that control our economy. This is why the only way we want real change in our country is if us, the oppressed black and colored people of this country, unite and stop letting colonizers tell us who we are, and that we embrace each other as brothers, because we do have a common pain and struggle, and that we heal each other. So I just want to end off with a couple of scriptures, and I'm going to leave you guys with that. I'm going to leave you guys with this beautiful scripture here, which is quite fitting of this lesson. Here, Psalms 10 verse 8, he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places does he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. And this is talking about the wicked and the so-called Edomites, these Caucasians that rule the earth. They are set, their eyes are set on oppressing the wicked, on oppressing the poor, and they get pleasure out of torturing our people and abusing our people. So with that being said, my dear people, let us unite and let us embrace each other and carry each other's burdens, because they're not like us, and they'll never see us as equals, and they'll always continue to see us as nothing. But us as each other, we know the pain that we have gone through, and we should, embrace each other and heal each other's pain. So with that, I want to give all glory and praises to the Most High YAHUAH. And with that, I say Shalom.
Locusts in the lyrics, I ain't read them as a team. Mark on they forehead, mark on they hand. I ain't sell my soul for a little grain of sand. YAHUAH, through YAHUAH, I'm alive. Blood on me like armor, got his name on my mind. Used to die for the streets, now I live for his sign. I left the beast in the system, now I'm